Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending. We'll call this meeting to order. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending our township meeting tonight. In attendance, we have Supervisor Albert, Supervisor Erler, Supervisor Ekman, Supervisor Friedman, and I'm Supervisor Birmingham. So we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Sitting on the far left, on my left, your right, is our township manager, Nick Graziano, and we have our township solicitor, Ron Karasak, at the far side of the table, and our township secretary, Cindy Beck, and she's not going to say anything about Code Red tonight, so, or maybe she will. But thank you for attending. The agendas are up here on the podium, so if anybody needs a copy of tonight's agenda, please come on up and grab one. Have the supervisors all had a chance to look at tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
I'd like the agenda to include public comment at the end, if possible, if time allows, rather.
I don't know. Can I see the pen for a second?
Yeah, take it. I got extra.
Yeah, if time allows, then we can do another public comment.
Thank you.
So he made the motion, somebody have to second.
Okay, I'll second Jonathan's motion to add public comment. We'll do it after, right before executive session. So public comment will be Roman numeral number 10. Executive session will be Roman numeral number 11. Okay, with that motion being made, all those in favor of approving tonight's agenda say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up is public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, you come up to the podium, give us your name, your address. You have 3 minutes. There's a clock right here. Once the 3 minutes goes off, that's it for your public comment. And you'll hear that buzzing sound, and that'll signify your time's up. Your public comments are addressed to the supervisors. Straight ahead, please do not address each other in the audience. No yelling at each other, no attacks. We're all adults here, and I know things get emotional and heated, but no personal attacks, please. With that being said, does anybody want to make a public comment? Come on up, Fred.
Don't start my clock yet.
I
I have
won't.
to apologize to everyone that's already heard this. Good afternoon. Fred Clark, Crystal Terrace, Upper Mount Bethel. Today I would like to discuss the municipal authority. Upper Mount Bethel's Act 537 plan is obsolete as an updated plan has not been approved by the PADEP since the 1990s. Environmental standards have changed significantly over the third of a century since the plan was approved, and how the municipal authority would fit into an updated plan is unprovable. For this reason alone, the formation of the authority was premature and its merits questionable. Furthermore, using the term municipal authority for an entity that has one client begs the question, why isn't this a private authority as its only client is industrial? I suspect that it was created as a municipal authority primarily for its authority to apply the essential use clause to seize and then convert hundreds of acres of residentially zoned property into industrial use fields for 400,000 gallons of industrial wastewater per day that could have been properly disposed of on the I-2 property of the RPL site. I hope I'm wrong, but misuse of this authority to undermine the protections provided by zoning laws to the benefit of a single enterprise will be another shining example of government corporate cronyism at the expense of innocent citizens, if I'm right. Despite reservations about the municipal authority, the obvious way to minimize potential health, environmental, and negative financial impacts on town residents is to have the municipal authority apply the essential use clause to whatever acreage is needed from the undeveloped RPL I-2 footprint for the drip irrigation fields. The benefits are, it would be the proper use of essential use clause as that the party impaired by its use receives an equal and opposite benefit. It keeps industrial waste on already industrially zoned land that is currently undeveloped and available, and maintains the developer's original claim that only 2% of the town's land will be affected by the development. Because buildings will have to be eliminated or downsized to make room for the drip irrigation fields, there may be less industrial waste to process and hence less risk to aquifers and watersheds. This approach will return the water used by RPL development to the same aquifer and watershed it came from and reduce risk of polluting or disturbing other aquifers or watersheds. Applying the essential use clause to procure enough RPL I-2 property to solve the Lands Act 537 plan would validate the concept that this is properly identified as a municipal authority, as it would benefit the municipality. Properties in the residential neighborhoods will not have to suffer from devaluation and health risks that could occur if they are in proximity to the industrial wastewater fields. It reduces the risk that the municipal authority will have to use eminent domain powers on residents that have no desire to sell their land. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else, public comment? Richard.
Good evening. Richard Wilfred Hunt, Shady Lane, Mount Bethel. Board members and the public, thank you for your time. My public comment tonight pertains to why we should dissolve the municipal authority. The recent elections show that there was little to no support for the RPL project. Voters were significantly in favor of electing new supervisors who were not so deeply embedded with the developer. There's little support for an authority. It was hastily established by resolution at the very end of the year by Teal, Dew, and Pinter, who were effectively voted out of office. There are no articulated benefits to the residents. The wastewater treatment plant and sewer and water facilities seem to be dedicated to the RPL development, with possible limited use for some residents. There's no income in the near future. There's no approved Act 537 plan. No lots have been sold to date. MPDS permits have not been issued. The Army Corps of Engineers has recommended well monitoring tests that will take a minimum of 3 years to complete once started. Given the above, there are no means to generate any income for at least a few years. How will the authority support itself while waiting for the wastewater treatment plant, sewer and water facilities to be constructed, and then for customers to make it operational? It may require sewage from other municipalities to be taken by truck up Potomac Street to be processed in the facility to make it financially stable. It will require residents in the yet to be determined designated service areas to hook into the system, to pay the tapping fees, to pay for the plumbing from the sewer to their homes, and then a monthly sewer and water bill. Termination of authority, case study is Forks Township versus Forks Township Municipal Authority. Upper Mount Bethel Township should do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy?
Judith Henkel, 1752 Robin Hood Road. I'm going to be really brief because you've got a lot going on, but I'll reserve the balance of my time if I have any. I want to thank the supervisors for considering reestablishing the Township's Environmental Advisory Council, the EAC. The past board chose to eliminate the EAC and the conservation ordinances that were worked on for years when the developer's text amendment was approved. Taken directly out of the EAC handbook, each community EAC is set up to advise the local officials, commissions, and boards as best fits their community's objectives and goals. They have no power and work as a liaison between the community and its officials. UMBT EAC, through education about our unique sense of place, that's the River Ridge I'm always harping about, can encourage residents to freely express their views to promote a sustainable quality of life and economy for our community. We have so many knowledgeable and diverse interests here that can surely help it bring us together for a meaningful dialogue. I may be jumping the gun, but if you do reinstate us, I'm asking everybody, please come to our meetings and talk to our members. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, public comment? Yeah, come on up.
My name is Kenneth L. Brewer Jr. I live in Lower Mount Bethel Township, 9738 Upper Little Creek Road. I'm here to speak about one of your resolutions that you're going to be voting on tonight, and as being a member of the Bangor Area School Board, I'm just concerned of how it's going, so we know what our next step is going to be, and I'm very concerned with the issue of with the kids in the school on that, because of the proximity of it, because it's very close to the school. So that's all I have. I'll keep it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the Bangor Area School Board who would like to come up and make a public comment? Okay. Anyone else? Public comment? Yeah, Mark.
Mark Metzger, 114 Scenic Court, Mount Bethel. Mr. Chairman, the RPL project as currently proposed is going to be a massive project. The infrastructure to support this complex will also be massive. For example, the traffic impact studies project 22,000 vehicle trips per day at full build-out. This is going to require substantial road modifications. PennDOT is recommending to accommodate such traffic projections, at least 2 lanes of traffic moving in both directions, plus a left-hand turning lane on Route 611 between Portland and Route 512. For those of you who are familiar with that corridor, you know what something that wide is going to lead to. Okay? River Road will also have to be modified, as well as the Portland Bridge and toll system to accommodate such projected traffic numbers. Water and sewer is another area where Mount Bethel is a rural community. We have rural systems, on-lot. We all have on-lot water and sewer facilities. However, the occupants of this development are going to prefer to have a centralized urban facility. That does not yet exist. Okay? The cost to put all that infrastructure in place could be the better part of $1 billion. Okay? The community has some concerns. There has never been a financial plan submitted. Okay? No one knows how much this will cost and or how much public investment will be required. No one knows how much tax revenue can be generated by this complex either. Okay? Therefore, it's not possible to determine how long it will take to recoup all of the investment from public money. And if you implement LRTA incentives, this is just going to stretch out the timeline and could lead to more local public expenditures as a requirement. All of this is going to have substantial ramifications to this community, financially, environmentally, and to our bucolic way of life and setting. So the proponents of the existing proposal want to tell you that this is going to be an economic development boom or an economic enhancement to the area. Well, maybe it will, and maybe it won't. That will depend on a number of factors, and there's certainly plenty of risk. Everyone knows real estate projects can fail for a lot of reasons. The LVD-EDC, the Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation, put a report out in late in the third quarter of 2023 And there's some very interesting findings that that report points out. First of all, the Lehigh Valley is a major center for producing food and beverages. The Lehigh Valley is actually among the top 15% of food and beverage producers in the United States. In fact, employment in this industry is growing faster in the Lehigh Valley than it is anywhere else in the nation. What they reported is that 20% of the economic development processes are for food and beverage manufacturing. They credit a unique innovation for this. I'm 3 minutes already, and I'm only halfway done. Can I finish the second half of the next session?
Yeah, why don't you come up in the second
I
half?
want to get to a proposal where basically we want to put an alternative option in front. What I'm suggesting is that we use the I-2 zone to construct an advanced manufacturing science center for workforce development, business incubation, and the acceleration of products to market. This would be a regionally coordinated business model where businesses wanting to accelerate the development and marketing of new processes can do so. The execution of a federal, state, county, and local government economic development strategies could also be executed. Okay? This could also engage the economic institutions for executive and workforce training.
Hey, Mark?
Yeah.
Why don't you come up in the second public comment?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll finish that. Anyone else? Okay. Moving onward.
You got a question over there.
Who's that?
Ron.
Oh, all right. Come on up.
Make sure you get to 3 minutes.
I press it once you give your name.
Yeah, okay. Ron Angle, Upper Mount Bethel Township. A couple of things. One is, I applaud Mr. Erler for suggesting public comment also at the end. We always had public comment at the end. The previous board allowed pretty much unlimited public comment. Do I have to take this?
No. Carry on.
I earlier attended the municipal authority meeting where they did allow people to speak endlessly, really, about whatever their concerns were. Some people are in favor of things, some people are not in favor of certain things. But I just want to point out, I thank Mr. Earler for bringing that up, and I hope there's a vote taken later tonight that you do have public comment again at the end and the beginning, and I would hope everybody would vote for it. But now something on a positive note. I hear a lot of senior citizens complaining about the garbage bill, and rightfully so, and disabled people about the garbage bill. So I'd like to see the Board of Supervisors put into place those senior citizens and disabled people who qualify by their income be given a $100 rebate on their garbage bill. I think there's money there to do it, and I think you should do it because, again, a lot of people are suffering over that garbage bill. So I would hope you would consider that. And I thank you very much. I don't need the 3 minutes.
Thanks, Ron. Anyone else? Public comment. Okay. Announcements. Supervisor Albert.
No, I have none.
Okay. Supervisor Erler, any announcements?
No, sir.
Supervisor Ackman.
I do not.
Supervisor Friedman.
Yes, last week I attended a Zoom meeting about the retaining wall on I-80 East. The two important things I got out of it, that it's going to take 3 years to complete and cost $93 million. Now the second part of that was pertaining to the rock fall. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the link to attend that meeting, but Tara was present. And I'd like to give Tara my time now to bring us up to date on the rock fall situation on Route 611.
Good evening. Tara Mezzanotte. I live in Knowlton Township, and I am your PennDOT NJDOT liaison when necessary, and how nice it was to be able to be that when Supervisor Freeman was not able to join us for the rockfall mitigation part of the meeting on Thursday. A few things I want to mention. It was a number of months in the making, this meeting. It took quite some time. This is the first meeting the DOT has had on the rockfall mitigation project since 2020. And this is the first meeting that was available to us on the retaining wall project, really for the most part. So we're talking about two projects. The retaining wall, yes, it is $97 million. Yes, it is 3 years. What I want to mention about that one, a few things jumped out at me, is similar to the rockfall mitigation project, which by all accounts seems a little aggressive and ostentatious for the actual possibilities of rockfall events happening there. This one is completely replacing the entire retaining wall when there's 4 failed panels and there's 7 poor. So that's 11 panels that are could use something. Failed, absolutely. But that means there's 38 panels that are in good condition and fair condition. So once again, here I am suggesting that maybe they are doing things a little bigger than need to be. And it's a critical time to look at that because of 611 being closed. To have a 3-year retaining wall project backing up to our 5-year rockfall mitigation project, that's 7 years of more issues on I-80, when in all reality, by the time they get to addressing the condition of the rockfall situation on 611, by the time they scrape down the loose stuff and stabilize that slope, that'll take, let's say, 3-6 months. They're then going to be designing a rockfall mitigation project for that area. Who knows how long that's going to take? And they do have a retaining wall replacement repair on the books on 611. So we're looking at, catastrophic situation for us. It's nonstop. So the other things, a few things I wanted to note. They did mention that the design, the speed limit for the design that's there right now on 80 East is 35 miles an hour. How they can say this in public, I don't know. But that means they've known that the sight distance is not safe enough at 50 miles an hour, or the curves are too sharp for 50 miles an hour. So all this time they've left us at 50 miles an hour when we've been asking for the reduction in the speed limit, and it's really rated for 35. So we've already hammered them to lower that speed limit. There were a few other ones that are, interesting. Maybe we have a special meeting to talk about the interesting stuff. But it was very important for Pennsylvania to be represented at this meeting, and they were. Thank you, Chairman Birmingham, for writing the email that he did, pushing for Pennsylvania presence. Originally, DOT wanted to have just Hardwick and Knowlton Township and just give a little briefing, and we blew that up pretty big. You had representation from Senator Casey's office, Senator Fetterman's office, Congressman Wild's office was there, and some others in the area that were very important to be there. They're paying attention, they're listening, and I am sure they're going to be asking the right questions at the right time, which is coming up. And that's not to say we also have this other big project we are working on behind the scenes, and that is pushing for that big study. If they're going to put this kind of project upon us for 7 years, we have every right to be demanding that they also are doing a study, a long-term study. And we're moving in that direction. So we have some movement in that direction from the Northeastern Pennsylvania Alliance. 611 in Monroe County was the first to actually fail. So we've put it on them to say, the road in your jurisdiction failed first. We're pretty much expecting you to initiate the study first of your segment, whereas the New Jersey side has just been difficult, but we think we're going to crack that nut as well. Do you have questions?
Excellent. No questions for me. Supervisors? Thank you so much for the update, and thank you for representing us.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Supervisor Friedman, anything else?
That's all I have for now, thank you.
Thanks. Just a couple of things. Starting in March, Cindy, I'd like to start getting the committee reports from our various committees. And a question that I want to ask the supervisors is, how often do we want to be updated by the committee reports? In the past, it's been once a month, but that tends, I think, Supervisor Friedman, you let me know your thoughts too, whether that's too much or whether it just should be when something significant happens, or how do you guys want to do committee reports?
I think quarterly. Let's try quarterly, see how that works.
What do you guys think? Jonathan, Corey,
Quarterly sounds good to me.
Jason?
Yeah, I would agree with Gordon.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so then let's do quarterly reports, please. So our first one would have to be in March, right? The end of the first quarter.
And we'll have Cindy. It works.
Yeah, do the second.
Works. Cindy will send out notifications to all the committees then. Okay.
Thanks. This Wednesday, there is, well, I'm sure everybody knows about the zoning hearing board meeting, which is tomorrow night at the firehouse, and I believe it's 7 p.m., right? And Wednesday night is a community meeting. That's 7 p.m. at the firehouse, and that's where we've invited elected officials from the surrounding communities to come and talk to us and share their thoughts on the development coming in. So it's just trying to tell our neighbors we're here, we want to listen to you. Public is welcome to attend, and again, that's Wednesday, 7 p.m. at the Mount Bethel Firehouse. Also, we're still having the continuing meetings with the Mount Bethel Fire Department about the emergency shelter. All the ducks are back in a row, and we're going to start building the emergency shelter in October. So that's good news to hear. We've had some delays. We had a pandemic. We had costs go up in supplies, and things are coming together now. So just an update there. And Nick, do we have any updates on the restrooms at this point?
Actually, yes, today I actually met with Dennis from Tina's office for the permitting process to make sure that everything is done properly. And we found a little bit of a glitch in the electrical work that was done there, so which is not a big project. I spoke with Justin. I know he's not here today, but we spoke, and it's a simple fix. It's got to go from 30 amps to 60 amps, and it wasn't done properly when it was done, whatever, years ago. But that's not a glitch. And I heard from Frank Brooks today, and he said that everything's moving forward with the voting on the $60,000 grant from the county, and we should get an answer with that within 2 weeks. But I do have two other comments. That's okay, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Mezzanotte brought up about 611. That crew that is actually doing the mitigation for PennDOT will be in the neighborhood tomorrow. And forgive me, but I was away for 2 weeks, so I was catching up with all my emails, and the two important ones I saw at the end. They are in the neighborhood, and he offered to meet with me, so of course I said yes. So supposedly he's coming here tomorrow at 2 o'clock to fill me in on what's going on, and I'll have more to report to the supervisors and to the public once I speak with them. So once they're done going up and down 611 and doing their mitigation, their report, whatever their findings, he's going to come into the office, and we'll have a meeting with him. And also, PennDOT sent me a tremendous Excel file that I thought was just for me, but it's actually 67 counties. There's going to be a traffic study done in our neighborhood, which everyone probably knew was coming, so it is coming. I don't know when. I didn't get through the whole Excel sheet, so there is. I saw River Road on there, and I did see the single lane bridge, Ron, but there was 5 other properties there, but it's so huge I had to move things over back and forth. But I will get back to everybody and let you know. But if you do see those traffic counters, that's what it's for. It's for the PennDOT, and they're doing it all over the state, and Northampton County's in there, and we're in there, and I'll find out more, and I'll let the supervisors know the roads and where they're going to do it. I think it was 4 or 5 of them, but I caught that at the end of the day. So I just want to report to you guys and everybody at home to let them know if they do see them, that's what it's for. Okay, Mr. Chair.
Great.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Okay, moving on. Tonight we have County Executive Lamont McClure here, and he's come to speak to us about the county LERTA tax and his ideas for a new ordinance. And if I say anything incorrectly, please correct me. But he's come here tonight to speak to us and talk to us about it. And County Executive McClure, thank you very much for attending.
Mr. Chairman, it is an honor to be here with you tonight. Thank you very much for your kind invitation. Usually, when I'm in Mount Bethel, I have the big check with me. But tonight, I don't have the big check with me. Well, it'll be back. But I don't. Tonight, I'm a beggar. Tonight, I come hat in hand. Tonight, I come to ask you to help me change our LERTA law in Northampton County by supporting the LERTA replacement bill that I have drafted, which I believe I've shared with the body. Hopefully it was disseminated amongst all the members. And to suggest a partnership going forward. You see, supervisors, the era of warehouse proliferation in Northampton County is coming to an end. And we need to work together in partnership to facilitate the end to purely logistic million-square-foot warehouses. Now, as leaders in our community, we do have a responsibility to foster economic development and create an environment for job creation. And I have said this many times. I take Mr. Pector at his word that he wants to bring manufacturing jobs to his site. I take him at his word. And why that is so important is because we know that manufacturing jobs to start, as opposed to warehouse purely logistic jobs, manufacturing jobs pay $10,000 more a year to start. And if we're going to do economic development with powerful tax incentives like LERTA, we want to give our citizens a true leg up in the job market. You never make that $10,000 up again. Any of us who've worked know, when you take a job for less money, you're never making that up through the rest of your career. So it's so important that we emphasize manufacturing as opposed to purely logistics and warehouses. And what we know about warehouses in Northampton County is we don't need to incentivize them any longer with tax breaks. Warehouses may come here. Zoning may permit them. This is America. If you have property and it's properly zoned, you can do what you want with your property. But there is no reason any government at this time in Northampton County or in the Lehigh Valley should be using our fellow citizens' tax money to incentivize the building of purely logistic buildings. Obviously, with manufacturing, there's going to be a component of the manufacturing that must necessarily be warehousing. They make their products, they put it on the shelf before it ships. We understand that, and that's okay, because the manufacturing folks, the jobs in the environment that we created are going to be $10,000 more a year. But we should not and will not, going forward into the future, despite County Council's, I think, reluctance in the first instance to completely repeal the LERTA, they're going to be given an opportunity in the near future to replace it. And if I could take a minute or two of your time to talk about what my replacement LERTA ordinance does, I would appreciate that.
Sure.
What we're trying to do is to assist Mount Bethel to improve dilapidated properties within the area. That intention in the county ordinance remains the same. We also want to ensure that the property owner can request LERTA tax status for county taxes for any property in the LERTA area. We want to allow the county the opportunity to know what the proposed development is before granting LERTA tax status. Remember, we're looking unfavorably upon purely logistics and warehouses. The request is made after the approval of the land development plan within 60 days of the issuance of a permit. The new ordinance allows the county to know if the proposed property will be developed into a warehouse use before granting the LARA tax status. It provides incentives to developers to build other uses, read manufacturing. The new ordinance would clarify the county retains control over its own fiscal affairs and does not let another local taxing body exercise control over county taxation. In other words, another taxing body does not decide if the property owner should receive exemption from county real estate taxes. The county is in the best position to make that decision for itself under the proposed ordinance. The revised ordinance would ensure dilapidated properties get the assistance needed to develop the site into a use that benefits the county taxpayers financially and improves residents' quality of life by eliminating blight. If the property is not dilapidated, no tax break. It designates the property owner a due process hearing if the property owner disagrees with the hearing board's decision as a matter of law. The new ordinance would provide for collaboration with Upper Mount Bethel Township and the school district to work together on other issues to improve the designated LERTA area by having a hearing board to address any concerns of the local taxing body and the property owner. This clarifies the county tax exemption determination and is not part of the hearing board process. So that's my replacement LERTA in a nutshell. So we're not trying to eliminate LERTA incentive for the project. We're trying to incentivize manufacturing and de-incentivize, despite some of the things you've heard about that, de-incentivize warehousing. We also have I said I'd like to have some support from this body for my LERTA, whether that be a letter or in the form of a resolution. But I'm also here with a proposed collaboration. And if I could take it just another minute or two to go through that. Of course. I was reluctant when you invited me, Mr. Chairman, to come, as much of an honor as it is, because I too sat on county council for 10 years, many of those years with Ron. And I know what it's like to go through long meetings, so I didn't really want to make your meeting any longer than it had to be. But the adoption of the LERTA ordinance is discretionary with each taxing body. And this is pursuant to section 4725 and 4726 of the state taxing body statute, which authorizes the adoption of the LERTA ordinance. Section 4723 has been interpreted by Northwood Nursing Care and Convalescent Home, Inc. versus the City of Philadelphia, that under the LERTA decision, whether to exempt and how to exempt, whether to exempt and how to exempt is to be obtained is left to the determination of the taxing authority. The Jennison case gets to make its own determination as to whether the municipality will offer tax exemptions to otherwise taxable properties. The case also holds that once the blighted area is approved and once the building permit is issued, then it is automatic and the exemption must be given. The applicable section is section 4727. The language in this section is shall, not may. Therefore, as your current ordinance is currently written, the LERTA designation is mandatory. It's mandatory. In other words, once the ordinance is adopted, the ordinance controls. As currently drafted, if a property is designated in the area, the property owner gets the exemption as long as it meets the ordinance criteria, which, as you know, is very minimal in your current ordinance. So, one of the things I think we can do together, once the ordinance is adopted, then the taxpayer would get the LERTA designation if it meets the ordinance criteria. Section 4723 has been interpreted to permit the taxing body to determine if and how the tax exemption is available to the taxpayer. So what this means is you can amend your current ordinance to give control back to you on a parcel by parcel basis. You can do that. The exact language to implement that is contained within my draft ordinance that I'll be proposing to County Council. So what are our recommendations? Very respectfully, the county recommends that the township consider an amendment to its LRTA ordinance. Clearly, the ordinance as drafted permits a LRTA exemption if it is in the designated area and plans are approved and the permit issued. You have absolutely no, under your current ordinance, you have absolutely no ability to deny the LRTA exemption at this time. We believe that the LRTA statutory language and case law does provide the taxing authorities discretion to decide whether a particular property gets the exemption based on criteria in addition to designating the location of the blighted area. Upper Mount Bethel may wish to consider whether certain uses, while of course permitted by zoning, should receive a LRTA tax break. While we believe the use of the property is solely the owner's choice, we also believe just as strongly that the LRTA tax exemption is solely the taxing authority's choice. In other words, if you amend your ordinance, you decide which parcels get the LRTA exemption. We feel as long as each taxing authority treats all the properties in the designated area the same per its own ordinance, there is no uniformity issue. So none of the parcels will be treated differently. In other words, the county treats all the properties the same per the county LRTA ordinance criteria, and the township and the school district treat all the properties in the LRTA ordinance the same per its criteria. We recommend that Upper Mount Bethel Township take the opportunity to look into the possibility of amending its LRTA ordinance and recommend that the solicitors for the township and the county review the issue in greater detail together and then report back to their respective bodies for further review. I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Lamont. Any questions for Lamont?
I think if he sends us his thing, we can look at it and take it from there.
Got a copy I can hand up tonight. May I approach?
Yeah, sure.
It's the current county ordinance. The changes in red are what we propose to insert.
Okay. And my question, Lamont,
Sure.
would be, so the last meeting the county council had,
Yes.
where you tried to repeal
Yes.
the current ordinance,
Yes.
what was the argument from those who voted against repealing it?
Well, so three of them who live in what we refer to as the slate belt, right, all said that the designation needs to stay the same to promote economic development and job growth.
And your changes to the current ordinance promotes economic development but has an emphasis towards manufacturing jobs.
Yes, well, what we would use what I would use our ability to influence the process is to encourage manufacturing and to discourage warehousing for purely logistic purposes.
Okay.
So a use will have to be stated.
I'm sorry?
A use will have to be stated.
Yes. And I think the important thing here is for all the taxing bodies to make their own decision, not just give it away.
Right.
You know, when each application, right now the exemption's automatic in your as your ordinance currently exists. As long as it's within the exhibit that's attached to your ordinance, the parcels within the exhibit, that's automatic.
Right.
It's almost shall issue. Doesn't quite say that in your ordinance, but there's no other path other than that exemption being granted. So we're not, look, I proposed, I think to get to your question, I proposed the flat out repeal of it because I think it is at this time absolutely unnecessary, borderlining on gratuitous, to offer a LRTA exemption to a purely logistic facility, they're going to come here anyway. We're in the heart of the Boswatch corridor. It's the 6th largest economic geographic area in the world. And we have all of this available farm. They're coming here. They don't need to be incentivized by tax breaks to come here, is our point. So that was my purpose for proposing the repeal.
Right.
I don't think we need any. What I'm saying is, I understand the art of compromise, and I also understand that our roles as leaders aren't just to be, advocating the current, the current sentiment, but it's also our job to prepare for the future and create an environment where economic development and job creation can occur. We must, as leaders, balance those two issues.
Okay.
So that's why my replacement ordinance does what it does.
And when are you bringing this back up in front, or has the current county council seen
They
your
have
changes?
seen it. It has not been introduced yet. I wanted to come and see you first.
When are you planning on introducing it?
Within the next several meetings.
Okay, so our next meeting is March 11th. We'd like to put it on the agenda for that meeting to discuss a letter of support, or whether the supervisors want to offer a letter of support or want to form the partnership, from just your speech tonight. Would that be all right?
Oh, I'm here hat in hand.
Okay.
I'm a beggar.
Okay, so let's put that on the agenda, please, for March 11th. Okay.
Except when I have those big cardboard checks, then I'm not a beggar.
But you can give it a definite heads up when you plan on presenting this to council then?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It won't be before March 11th.
Okay.
It definitely will not be before March 11th. I quite frankly, need to do more work in advocating this position, and I need to gain the trust of folks who may not completely appreciate yet that I am sincere in wanting to foster an environment for economic development and job creation that pays $10,000 more a year.
Great. Well, County Executive McClure, we thank you so much for coming out to Upper Mount Bethel. Come on in anytime and give us a visit.
The next time I'm invited, I'll be here.
All right, thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you, guys.
We're gonna wait until the second public comment. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Cindy, can you make a note of that, please? Just the additional reps, invite them to a meeting to get their thoughts.
Tom Giovanni,
Mr.
John
Chair.
Brown, and John Perfetto.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, we don't have,
Yeah.
we don't have any other areas that could benefit from LERTA anymore, right? It's just the RPL property? Oh, they can go in any?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
just asking.
Oh. Yeah, give, no, you took. Yeah, give it to Cindy for copies if you, I'll work for it. No, wait, I have it. Just give that to Cindy. Cindy, I glossed over you for announcements. Did you have any announcements? Thank you. Okay, next up is public hearing codification of ordinances. Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we've said before, a public hearing really is no different than a public meeting, except that the purpose of a public hearing is to advise the public of what specifically might be occurring with respect to a certain project and what that project entails. And with respect to the codification of ordinances, the township developed a program, or developed on a path, I guess I should say, of codifying its ordinances so that all the ordinances, wherever they may be, some up in the base or some up in the attic, some in the old prison cell, some in files, some in other places, are going to be placed in one book in which all of the ordinances can be found. And the ordinance that is being proposed is going to have a number of different contents to it, and I'm looking at the table of contents that is part of the proposed codification, and there's a Chapter 1 on general provisions, a Chapter 10 on environmental advisory items, Chapter 17 on fire companies, Chapter 28 on a manager, Chapter 35 on open space advisory board, Chapter 42 on pensions, Chapter 49 planning commissions, Chapter 56 on recreation board, Chapter 63 on salaries and compensation, and then there's a whole slew of chapters with respect to general legislation. Chapter 80 dealing with brush, grass, and weeds. Chapter 87 dealing with building permits. Chapter 93 dealing with the numbering of buildings. Chapter 100 dealing with open burning. Chapter 107 dealing with the Uniform Construction Code. Chapter 113 dealing with contractor permits. Chapter 120 dealing with disorderly conduct. Chapter 127 dealing with emergency services reimbursement. Chapter 134 fireworks. Chapter 141 floodplain management. Chapter 148 grading. Chapter 157 insurance. Chapter 167 junkyards and junk dealers. Chapter 171 key lock boxes. Chapter 180 mobile homes and mobile home parks. Chapter 186 moving permits. Chapter 193 noise. Chapter 202 peddling and soliciting. Chapter 209 permits. Chapter 223 property maintenance. Chapter 229 property vacation or occupancy notices. Chapter 237 rental property. Chapter 244 sanitary systems. Chapter 251 sewage, sludge, and biosolids. Chapter 257 sewers and sewage disposal. Chapter 270 dealing with skateboards. Chapter 271 dealing with solid waste. Chapter 285 dealing with stormwater management. Chapter 291 dealing with streets and sidewalks. Chapter 298 subdivision and land development. Chapter 305 taxation. Chapter 312 tree harvesting. Chapter 323 vehicles and traffic. Chapter 335 wellhead protection. Chapter 341 wells, and Chapter 350 zoning. So all of those ordinances, and they all presently exist, the list I just gave you. These are not new ordinances. These are not things that we are developing this evening. They all exist, but in different places, different ordinance numbers are all going to be now in one book that will probably be somewhere between 4 to 5 inches thick, and we'll have all of them in that one place, so you can go to that one place and look at those ordinances. And then, of course, as those ordinances may be amended, then that book will also have to be amended, and there'll have to be inserts put in, etc. This job was not done by township personnel. It was done by a company. What was it? It's in the General Code. The General Code company that does this work and gets all the ordinances together, finds them all, and puts them all in the book for advertising. And because this matter involves some revisions or tweaking to the zoning ordinances and also to the subdivision ordinances, the advertisement for this matter was consistent with those changes, which was an advertisement once a week for 2 successive weeks under the name of the township itself, and an advertisement once a week for, and one advertisement under my name as solicitor with respect to this matter. Other than that, I've looked at the ordinance, and again, it's not really changing anything. It's simply making this a new book, if you will, with everything involved, and there's nothing more I have to say. I'm not sure if Cindy would want to add anything. She's been struggling with this for some time and putting up with my delays in getting this advertised so it could be adopted this evening, but finally she got me off my duff to get this done. And so if she has any comments, she's welcome to make them. And other than that, this hearing could be closed unless there's any comments, and then the matter could be heard under action items.
Cindy, any comments? And then we're going to have this available at the Township Building, and residents can come down anytime and take a look at them. Okay. And then it'd be great if we could get them on the website as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure how easy that may be. I mean, my guess is you're looking at hundreds of pages of documents in this book. It's not just like a 3 or 4 page
15 minutes?
Might be. I'm not a techie kind of person, so you'd have to.
Yeah,
ask
no,
someone
I know
like
it's a
that.
big project. Okay. Okay, but at least we'll have it available at the Township Building in a hard copy, and any resident can come down and look at them. Okay. Anything else, Ron?
I have nothing else, again, unless there is some comment by anyone in the public with respect to what I said or what this might be about.
Is there any public comment? Okay, thank you. Ron, do we need a motion?
Yeah, I would just do a motion to formally close the hearing, if you will, and then we can move on to the action items.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we close the public hearing for the codification of ordinances.
I'll second.
Any discussion from the supervisors?
No, it's a long time coming.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Here you go.
Okay, public hearing is closed. Action items, number 7. We have ordinance 2024-01, vacating a portion of Marshfield Drive.
If you recall, Mr. Chair, there was a public hearing on this matter perhaps maybe a month or so ago. There was discussion with respect to some conditions being made part of the ordinance, so that the ordinance that was proposed as such would need to be revised. But more importantly, before we can do anything, I have to be authorized to advertise the ordinance in the newspaper. So if someone is willing to make a motion to advertise the ordinance with the conditions that were discussed, I can then do that and put it on for the maybe the mid-month or end-of-month meeting for March.
Then that being said, I make a motion we advertise the ordinance as per Mr. Karasek's request.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Just one question, Ron. When this ordinance comes up for the hearing, there's discussion on, we can have discussion at that time about this
Yes.
ordinance.
Yes,
And
obviously.
if there's anything we want to change, or
If there's something you want to change, and we would have to determine whether or not you would need another hearing.
Yeah.
Because minor changes can be made, but any changes of substance would require another hearing, may even require additional advertising. Right now, as I said, I only need to be authorized to advertise it, so when that bill comes in, there is a basis for payment of the bill from the newspaper.
Okay. Okay, any other questions from the supervisors? Okay, that being said, all in favor of Supervisor Friedman's motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes. Next up is ordinance 2024-02, code adoption ordinance.
And that's the ordinance which we just discussed briefly at the public hearing. Again, the ordinance has been advertised. I believe that it has been given the number as noted here as 2402. Now, if you want to change the number to 2401, because 2401 is the Marshfield ordinance, which has not yet been adopted, or the vacation of Marshfield Drive ordinance, which has not been adopted, you can do that, or keeping it as 2402 is fine also, as long as that is a designated number and everyone knows that's where that would be.
Okay. Are there any motions from the supervisors?
I think we should keep the codes the same. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
You can, are you making a motion?
No, just to keep them the same.
Yeah.
You don't need a motion to keep them the same.
Okay. Now we need a motion to see if we're going to adopt.
For the code adoption ordinance, yeah, I make a motion we adopt the code adoption ordinance.
Okay, and what number do you want to give it?
We'll give it 2402 as on the agenda. Otherwise, we have to change everything.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on, number 8, new business, reestablish the EAC, which is the Environmental Advisory Council. Supervisor Friedman?
Yes, this has been brought up in discussion before. I had stated that, I'd be willing to bring back the EAC if we had 5 willing people to serve on the board. We have those 5 people. So make the steps now to reestablish the EAC board. And Mr. Karasak, what would that entail?
I'm sorry, Mr. Friedman, I was reading something else.
Okay.
but
What would we have to do to reestablish the Environmental Advisory Council?
Well, refresh my recollection as to what happened with it. Did it just die a quiet death without any formal resolution or without any formal motion, or was there a formal motion or resolution or something to that effect that abolished the EAC? And perhaps former Supervisor Chair Henkel could also enlighten us in that regard, because I really don't remember.
From what I remember, it was we were having a hard time getting people to come to the meetings. People were dropping out. But I don't know, Judy, if you remember, if the board ever voted to dissolve the EAC. I don't think we did. Yeah, I think it was just, okay, the EAC's done.
So benign neglect?
Yeah, yeah. It was just
So I would say to you, if that's the case, all you would need to do is prepare a resolution. Does not need to be advertised or anything to that effect. To just say that there are now sufficient number of individuals who are willing to be members of the Environmental Advisory Council or Committee, and as a result, the committee will now begin to reinitiate or restart its activities as it has in the past, and thank you very much. It's about all you really need to do. As long as there was no formal motion or resolution to disband it or whatever, just a resolution saying you now have people again, and we can start this engine again.
Could you draw that for the next meeting then, please?
I can do that, but I would need names and
have the
of the
names.
individuals and all that kind of jazz.
We have that.
Then I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
And Cindy, you'll throw that on the agenda, please? Yeah. Okay. Supervisor Friedman, do you have a motion?
I would like to make a motion that Mr. Karasak draw up a resolution reestablishing the EAC with the names that he requested.
I'll second.
Any discussion from the supervisors? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Teamsters Local 773 Memorandum of Understanding. Nick?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this was discussed when we hired the 2 seasonal employees. This is just a memorandum that was put together by Ron, and it's already agreed on between the township and Mark LaBalle is the Vice President of the Teamsters Union. It just needs to be approved by the board, which we discussed 2 meetings ago. Basically, it just means that, and Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, that this does not set precedent because we altered the contract way that it's stated, so these guys could be able to do their probationary period while they started just recently. And when we do hire them, which I'll probably ask for the next meeting or the following meeting, they don't have to do a probationary period. They will be hired as permanent full-time employees. And myself and Dave Freeman, Supervisor Freeman, discussed it with the union, and he just wanted to have the memorandum of understanding so it doesn't set a precedent. So it's a one-time deal. So we just need a vote to approve this. If there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
And Ron, that's why you called it an MOU?
Yes, and according to what our township manager told me, the union is okay with this. That was my concern. But they wanted to make certain that it would not be establishing any precedent so that later on it would not come back to bite them in some fashion. My concern was the memorandum of understanding talks about these two employees then being hired by the township, and the feeling, or I was concerned about the township being forced to hire these two people after a certain amount of time who may not be performing as expected. But in speaking with the township manager, that will be a part of their 90-day probation, if you will, while they're working, and then the adoption of them as full-time employees. And I'm told by the township manager that they are needed in any event. So I just didn't want the township to get jammed in having to hire someone who may not be working properly, but that's not what I'm told will be happening.
Okay.
Yes, like I said, we sat down with the union rep, and he's okay with this. The two individuals have been working out very well. So if we need that, then I can make a motion, we adopt the memorandum of understanding.
I'll second.
Any discussion from the supervisors? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Nick. Next up, number 3, trees on Route 611. I wanted to bring this up for discussion. I've heard from a number of residents who are concerned about the trees as you go down 611 and some of the dangerous conditions that these trees are in. And, you know, I know 611 is a state road. I know the trees are on homeowners' properties. My question is, and Ron, question for you as well is, what is the township's, I know it's the supervisors make the policy, but in terms of protecting our citizens or those who travel up and down 611 legally, what can we do and what are we prohibited from doing?
Well, if the trees are in the public right-of-way, that basically is the municipality's space in order to be able to take care of various utilities that might be considered in the future, whether it be water, gas, sewer, electric, telephone, cable, regular cable. So if they're in the right-of-way, you could certainly remove them if they are posing a danger. If they are on the property, on a property owner's property, again, I believe we have an ordinance in place that allows those trees to be removed if they have been determined to be diseased or in a bad way. I don't remember the exact number of that ordinance, but that's one of the ordinances that we just reviewed with that codification. So that the township has that also. I mean, if it's something bad, if it's something dangerous, I always take the position that, you know, you make sure you protect the township, you make sure you protect the township residents, and if there's any heat to take for it, all right, I got big shoulders, I'll take the heat, but the township and the township residents come number one, and if you need to protect them, that's what you do.
Thank you, Ron. Any supervisor comments?
I think this came up with the zoning officer, didn't it, Nick? We were talking about it with her. She said, you know, if she just reiterated what Ron had just said, that, you know, if it's if citizens' property, it's their obligation to take it down. So,
Well, if Ron is saying if it's on the property owner's property, does the township still have a legal right to remove the tree?
I would have to look at that ordinance again, but that ordinance is not that old. And generally, as a general rule, if it's, again, a danger to the public, danger to something passerby, the township could remove or trim the tree or whatever, and then bring a claim against the property owner. I mean, generally, Supervisor Friedman is correct. The property owner is the one that is responsible for the trees on his or her property and responsible to make sure that they are not a problem. However, if the trees, again, are diseased or in somehow in a bad way, as I said, I believe the township can act, but I'd like to look at that ordinance again. I simply don't remember it by heart at this point, but I don't think it was enacted much more than a couple of years ago.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Ron, if you can look into that, that would be great, please.
Sure.
We'll throw that on the March 11th agenda, and in the meantime, Nick, let's just talk about the certain trees up and down 611.
Yeah, I mean, it's state property. It's not ours.
Yeah.
So just to be aware, I mean, our responsibility on our roads is to make sure that the roads are safe, and it includes the trees.
Yeah.
And we've taken trees down that are dangerous, but we'll get permission from the homeowner.
Yep.
But this isn't state property, so it's their responsibility to take them down, not us. I don't know what the easement is on 611 for which I'm sure it's more than our 16 feet. But anything that on municipality roads, our roads, anything that's above the roads, it's our responsibility to make sure that they're safe.
Right. And if it's on state property or state road, then we got to get the state out here.
They've been out here many times, unfortunately. I mean, when with Frank's Deli, when they came out, I've had numerous people come up to me and say, I can't make a left there, there's shrubbery, and I went to and I have a good relationship with the representative for PennDOT in our area. He's a good guy, but I don't want to say they don't want to do it. It just seems like they can't do it because the people don't want the person who the owner is there. They don't want them to touch their brush. And I don't know how far their easement is again, and they wouldn't do it. So, and it's just unfortunate. I mean, we can only go so far as we can. We just can't go on state roads and start doing work.
Right.
That's
right.
not our job, and it's a bad habit to do. So it creates a lot of issues.
Okay, let's talk more about it this week.
Yeah, sure.
See what we can do. Okay, moving on. Eastern Industries garage doors. Nick?
Okay, this started with last year. We got a $10,000 grant for heating for the garages in Upper Mount Bethel on Eastern property in the garages. And the thing with the heating, though, is that there's no insulation. The garage doors are broken. They're not insulated. I mean, you go in there. I was in there today with Supervisor Erler. I just showed him the property, and it's like a freezer in there. So we have a brand new roof on both garages, but the garage doors need replacement. So get those done first and work our way in instead of working in and working out. I don't know why the heating was for the first priority, but that's. So we had it changed. Cindy and I spoke with Frank Brooks, and we had everything changed so we could use it for the doors. And in the Norco grants, you spend the money and then you get the money back. So I gave everybody the estimates, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I did also ask our chair of the EDC board, Scott Cole. Air Liquide always offers donations to the township. So, and he presented the donation, the request for a donation Wednesday night to Air Liquide, so we'll find out about it. And I asked for another $10,000 to match the $10,000 we spend, and we might have to come up with about $2,500 to make up the balance, as you see in the proposals. I got 3 proposals as required by law. One of them was way too high, so we couldn't even accept it because it goes over the threshold of the $23,300. And then there was 2 left over that we could look at. One was Stroudsburg, and one was ABC, I think it is. Let me just get my paperwork.
ABE?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Hendershot one was way too high, so we couldn't even accept that one. Stroudsburg overhead doors and ABE, both professional, very, the major difference, and the difference in the cost is one was $22,988 and the other one was $22,410. But when you look at the equipment that they were going to put in there and the doors that they were going to put in, the R rating on the doors on our ABE are R13, which is high, and the ones on the from Stroudsburg was R8, so which is not good. It's just the thickness of the insulation. So, and ABE was very professional about it, so I'm proposing to use them to do the installation if the board decides to move forward, and if there's any questions.
Any questions from the supervisors?
Nick, what's the total for ABE?
ABE is $22,988. That's the total for 4 doors.
Yeah, it's at, I had a hard time finding it too. It's at the
It's at the
of
bottom,
page.
Corey, at the bottom left.
Okay, yep.
So Nick, you're recommending ABE then?
Yeah, I do Supervisor Freeman, I do recommend them, meeting both. It's very professional. They do doors, and actually Supervisor Albert, she told me that they use them for their firehouses and stuff, and they're very professional. We responded quickly. Proposal came in immediately, and they're local also. I mean, they're in Allentown. That's local there. But and Hendershot just came way high. And like I said, Stroudsburg, they responded, but their equipment, their garage doors are not as good as the ones that ABA is offering us.
Are not as good quality?
Yeah, the insulation, I went by the R ratings and the windows that they had. The R ratings on the doors from Stroudsburg were a lower rating, so the thickness is very small. It's smaller than the thickness of the ones that are installed by ABE. So for the difference of what, like $500, I think it was, it's well worth it to go with the better equipment, better insulation, and in the long run it'll save us money heat-wise because you have more of insulation.
Well, again, those doors then is the first step to utilizing that building.
Yes.
So, and I'll make a motion that we accept proposal number 36416 in the amount of $22,988 from AEB Doors and Windows for door replacement at the Easton Industries building.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion from the supervisors? Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Nick. Municipal Authority legal update. I do not have an update on that. I did call outside counsel today, and I did find out from one of his associates at Gross McGinley that he was in court all day, so I haven't heard back from him, so I do not have an update. I know we're going to go and talk about this in executive session, but I don't have a legal update from outside counsel at this time. Moving on, Section 9, tabled items. First up is appoint alternate member to Friends of Lake Mincy.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we had gotten a letter from Eleanor Sheldon about being the alternate to Friends of Lake Mincy, and I would like to see her appointed to Friends of Lake Mincy.
Does anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Eleanor for alternate Friends of Lake Mincy.
And give her last name, please.
Sheldon.
Eleanor Shelton, okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up is Resolution 2024-03, NJ dot I-80 and Route 611 liaison. And this is the liaison for the resolution is Tara Mezzanot. She was here tonight, spoke earlier, and gave us an update. And this would be for, as the township liaison, to attend any meetings that supervisors attend or supervisors may not attend. She cannot bind the township, but she can represent the township. So she's not an agent for the township, but she is a representative, and she reports back to us.
Just in the capacity she had when she just informed us of what went on
Yeah.
with the rock fall and the retaining wall.
Yeah, I think she's extremely knowledgeable, passionate, hardworking, and does a lot of great things for Upper Mount Bethel, even though she's not a resident here.
Then that being said, I make the motion that we pass resolution number 2024-03, New Jersey DOT I-80 and Route 611 liaison, appointing Tara Mazant as our liaison.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up is resolution number 2024-04, transfer of liquor license.
I think the,
Oh, I did
the
forget,
fire-
sorry.
fireman-
Go back up to number 3, review protocol for employee firemen response. Nick?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is basically just to get into the contract for the union contract for our firemen that are on our force in the Highway Department, Jimmy Potter and Todd Pinto. So typically, always, anytime there's a fire, if possible, Jimmy would go, and which is fine, and the township, I know, appreciates our firemen. And since during the day it's very difficult to get anybody to respond, we have no problem with that as a township. But now we have Todd also going to be coming on board, who's a chief actually, and Jimmy's an assistant chief. And we just need to get some verbiage in the contract. There was no verbiage in the contract, just to establish that they can go or can't go. So what we need is, I spoke with Ron, and we put together, basically the union again was involved and sent over some contracts that were in there about firemen that had them in the contract, and Ron picked out one that was pretty good. And the only thing that we just want to do right now is obviously have the board accept this, and we'll get this in the contract, because their contract is coming up. So we'll get this put into the contract, but it'll be in force once you guys approve it. But we just need some verbiage change in here, because it says Township Roadmaster. There is no more Township Roadmaster. We wanted to add General Foreman, Assistant General Foreman, and Township Manager. Those are the only additions that we wanted to add to that, to make that complete. And if there's anything that the township supervisors want to add or to take out, it's up for discussion.
Ron, so you have reviewed this?
Yes, I reviewed it, and in fact, most of it is my language.
Okay.
Based upon various templates that the union forwarded to us. So I'm assuming the union would have no problem with this.
Okay, and I'll just read this out. I don't think anybody has a copy of this. So basically this says, employees who are active, not merely social members of either the Mount Bethel Fire Company or the North Bangor Fire Company, are permitted to respond to fire calls, provided such response will not create an undue interruption in the immediate township task or job being performed by them at the time, and as such interruption is determined in the sole discretion of the, and that would be road foreman or assistant.
Yeah, the general foreman, assistant general foreman, and township manager.
Okay, in charge of the road department or road crew. Employees responding to a fire call will be paid for their normally scheduled hours while serving in that response capacity. Any discussion from the supervisors?
No, we've talked to that with the Todd and the union rep and Nick, and we've gone through this, and it's basically common sense. And that being said, I make a motion that we accept the protocol for employee fireman response.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay, that being said, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Number 4, resolution number 2024-04, transfer of liquor license. Ron?
This was tabled from the last meeting where the project was proposed, and I believe it was Supervisor Ekman that asked for what are the specifics with respect to approving these licenses within so many feet of a school district or a school. Attorney Ulrich, who was kind enough to be here and has stayed at the meeting for any questions, provided that information to us, and it indicates that the LCB can, in its discretion, decide to grant or not grant approval of a license within 300 feet of a school. Now, I'm not certain if, in fact, the 300 feet is met or not met from where the Penn Jersey convenience store and gas station is located to where the first school building is. The first school building would be the high school. I would think that's more than 300 feet away, but in any event, that's what that ordinance says, and it's up to the LCB to make that call, not necessarily the township. Because the township just basically says, okay, you can have the license transferred to this location, but then they have to go to the LCB for final approval and final review. So in any event, it's back on for discussion based upon the tabling and the request by the supervisors to get that language regarding how close to a school.
Okay, I'll open it up for discussion.
Again, just so the supervisors are clear, you would or could deny the request if you find that the request adversely affects the welfare, health, peace, and morals of the municipality or its residents. So that's the standard that you would have to say, that this transfer adversely affects the welfare, health, peace, and morals of the municipality or its residents.
And Ron, even though we would say that, the state could supersede our decision.
No, once you make that decision, case is done. They can't even appeal.
Okay.
The applicant can't even appeal the decision. It's done.
All right.
The state requires that the municipality first give its approval before they would step up. That's basically what they're asking.
Any discussion?
No, I'm not comfortable with this. I've talked to the Dr. Hawes. We were supposed to get feedback from the school board, which we never did. We know that they're having problem with the kids bringing tobacco products back to the high school. So, and he wants to put in a 30-seat eating area, which would just, make things worse, I believe. So that's my thoughts.
Mr. Freeman, there was someone that stood up for the school board, I believe.
Yes, he did, one
Yeah.
person.
Mr. Brewer,
Mr. Brewer.
Yeah.
the school board member. Attorney Ulrich, you're here, right?
Do you want to come up again, sir, and say anything? Okay, he made his comment.
Okay. You're welcome
Yeah.
to come up, and then Attorney Ulrich, you'll have a chance to also respond, so.
The question I've heard, and in reference to the 300 feet, it goes from the way I understand, what I understand as it's from the boundary line. And if you go to that swale, on the other side of that swale, right next to 5 Points Inn, that's the boundary line, and you're actually right across the street, so it's just a road width, so that's a lot less than 300 feet. So I'll leave it at that. I'm just here to see how you're gonna,
So you're saying,
and the concern is of what it's gonna affect about the welfare. Yeah, I'm very concerned with this, and that's why I'm here to see how the vote goes down.
So Ron, is it from the actual?
Thank you.
From the school building, or is it from the edge of the school property?
It just says 300 feet in the statute. I have not been able to find exactly that measurement, but hearing from school board member Brewer that it goes from boundary to boundary, that makes sense. There's other,
There's going to be kids on it.
there are other statutes that go from boundary to boundary, but I'm not, proposing the project. That's a policy that you as supervisors have to decide, but just remember that there are several safeguards yet. If you do approve this, the LCB has to approve it. They have to then make a determination of whether or not they're going to say this is okay. In that determination, they can accept public comment from other individuals and places with respect to that. And then, of course, if in fact there are violations occurring, well, the LCB then is going to come and shut them down. If in fact that that happens, the fact that you already have a bar right across the street, which has not created any issues, should be some consideration. Now, obviously, high school kids aren't going to walk into a bar. That's a little different than walking into a convenience store, which is a lot easier. But there are those factors that you can consider in making your your decision.
Counselor, did you want to say anything?
I believe I've raised most of these points prior. That's why I provided the statute. Again, I don't object to the school board's objections to this. It's logical that they would raise them. There is a bar right there, obviously, but we're asking simply to allow us the opportunity to go to the liquor control board and essentially.
I'm sorry, Counselor, could you come up to the microphone, please? This is so our residents watching from home.
Yep. With respect to this, and as I mentioned to Supervisor Ekman, the fact is ultimately this would end up in what's called a conditional licensing agreement. The Liquor Control Board would simply put restrictions on this. That's what would happen. They're not going to simply allow this without any additional restrictions. The statute says 300 feet subject to their approval. Therefore, Liquor Control Board is basically saying, let us take a chance to do this. If they deny it and say it's not worth it, then they'll deny it. But we can't even get to the Liquor Control Board unless you allow, you're not approving, and just so the school board understands it, they're not approving the license transfer. They're simply approving a transfer into the municipality to allow us to make the application to the Liquor Control Board. I can't even hit submit on PLCB Plus for my application until we were to get this resolution, as I mentioned at the last meeting. We're not asking you to approve the license. There's no additional steps on your part. We're simply asking for the opportunity to present our case to the Liquor Control Board. And they will most likely put restrictions on that. And to the residents and the school board, you're invited to participate in the process with the Liquor Control Board. The placard hasn't even been placed yet on this property. That was one of the objections at the last thing. They said no placard has been placed. Well, of course it hasn't been placed. We're not allowed to until the actual application is submitted to the Liquor Control Board. So people will be invited to attend those hearings, they're done online, and that would just give us the opportunity to do this. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor. Yeah, Ken. You got to come up to the microphone, please.
Just so you understand, once you say you approve it, then it gets posted, and then anybody within 300 feet that you're 300 feet, you would have 30 days. They have to post it down at the building that they're applying for this, and because you approved it. If you don't approve it, it's a dead issue. They don't even go any further. But if it goes further, then they post it down there that they're applying for this, and then whoever is within 300 feet would have 30 days to. They have to post that for 30 days. They have to post it up in the building.
Okay.
What's your name? I'll address it.
Kenny Brewer.
I'm on. No, it's all right. So that you're
Counselor, into the microphone, please.
You're only getting half the story right on that. What happens is, that is true for a traditional liquor license, but because of the statutory provisions in 47-432, the Liquor Control Board actually they make the decision. This isn't one where they need an objector. This automatically goes to the Liquor Control Board.
Whether they do anything.
What do you mean? Go ahead.
What I understand, if the board would approve it, say it's okay, then you post that sign down there.
That's correct.
They got 30 days from the date of their approval to object to it.
So, yeah,
and they have to post it.
Well, no, that's the part about posting is absolutely true. The second part of what you're saying is, if this was a regular license and that statute didn't apply, that's true. Like that 30-day notice means that though no resident could contest it after that 30. This one automatically goes to the Liquor Control Board because it's within that 300 feet. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's no avoiding that issue. That's what Solicitor Karasak said, that it actually automatically goes there and that they have the discretion. They could simply deny it outright. So this doesn't work like a regular liquor license. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. No, thank you, Ken.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I felt it was appropriate to at least comment
Yeah,
on the
it's
school
fine.
board. They deserve that additional security. And like I said, we're not asking for you to approve the license. You don't actually do that. LCB approves the license.
The board should be aware that, in fact, I just happened to do one of these transfers. Was in Attorney Ulrich's spot in Stroudsburg, where there was a change from Bethlehem to Chestnut Hill Township. And of course, it had to be approved by the township, which it did. And then the applicant had to jump through all kinds of hoops. We now had to have the restaurant place looked at. It had to be measured. The LCB agent came and looked and checked everything. They checked to make sure that there was the ad in the window telling people of that. There had to be licenses and leases and other documents in place with respect to having it approved. So it was no fun for the applicant. I'd say it probably took close to 9 months for the LCB to finally approve it after the township said, yeah, okay, you can do the transfer. That's how much time and that's how much effort it took. Again, I'm not raising the flag or whatever for the applicant. All I'm saying is that you are not approving the license, you're simply saying, yes, it can be transferred here for further processing by the LCB.
And again, that is the point I'm simply trying to emphasize here. We're not asking you to approve the license, all of these restrictions, and school board is of course invited and welcome to participate in the transfer process. That's the whole point. But we're simply asking for the opportunity to present our case to the LCB. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Even once they present it to LCB, we don't have any, there's nothing else we can do, right? This is our one and only chance to either say yes or no.
Well, you can certainly, as a township, comment once the placard goes up.
We can comment,
and
but
comment
we
to the
can't-
LCB.
I guess my biggest thing is trying to see what it would be, the end result. Where are 30 seats going to go?
Yeah.
How's it going to be policed? Is it going to be behind a counter? You know, prime example, last week, trying to pay for a cup of coffee, nobody was there to pay for a cup of coffee. Like, who's going to watch? anything?
You're not going to be able to reach back and change it.
Right.
So that is correct. We would have to rely upon the LCB and their agents and their representatives to make certain when they come and do their inspection that everything is in order.
Right. And as long as it's in order when they're there for inspection, LCB doesn't go to those places every night. We didn't have them in the bar inspecting every night.
No, they will not be
Right.
there every night at all.
This is a violation.
Unless there's a violation.
But with respect to that, and as I mentioned to you prior to the meeting, Supervisor Ackerman, the whole point is, yes, that is true, there will not be somebody there, but there's not somebody there all the time. They'll most likely be entered into what's called a conditional licensing agreement. A singular violation will most likely terminate the license. I mean, I can't guarantee that, but
But who knows how long it'll be until they get caught selling underage, people walking out. You know what I mean? Until it's reported, nobody knows.
I suppose that's true, but
I mean-
you're also speculating to the point of that.
Well, speculating, but it has been caught in the school for tobacco for kids that aren't 18 years old, which is now 21.
But I mean, you don't know for a fact that it didn't happen when you were working at the bar next door, that they weren't selling to minors. You don't know that.
12 years, it didn't happen while I was there.
But maybe one of your fellow employees was doing it. We don't know.
I think you've got some questions you still want answered.
There's the answers that I want obviously won't happen until and if we do the transfer. And then when we get the answers, we can't do anything about them. It's out of our hands.
Yeah, now what I'm thinking is maybe you have a meeting or we get the owner to come back and talk to us, and we have a list of questions we want to ask him, because it seems like from what I'm understanding from your feedback, is that you have concerns about underage kids getting liquor inside the store.
Or just taking it, not maybe even so much underage.
Or stealing.
People stealing, just
Yeah.
going out.
Yeah, I think actually Commissioner Ekman actually does raise, that point is somewhat, there's no, and I'm sure when the owner was here for the hearing, he's obviously not going to want this sold, and he's going to tell his employees not. That's going to be the truth. And I think Supervisor Ekman would agree with that. No responsible bar owner is going to do that, because they're not going to want to kill the golden goose that's making them money. I think her concern is, and validly, is that the issues with respect to somebody stealing. And that is something that LCB is very well versed in. That's why I think they would, I'm confident that LCB would have restrictions on how people could access it in a facility like that.
And you should know,
They'll come down with a hammer.
Mr. Chair, that although there might be a need or a concern about more information, tonight's the deadline night. You have to fish or cut bait tonight. If you don't make a decision tonight, it's going to be deemed approved.
Okay. Any other discussion? Jonathan?
No, I can make a motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-04, the transfer of the liquor license.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? I just say I have more questions about this as well, I know there's a motion on the floor, so we'll bring the vote forward. But we're running out of time as well, so. Anyone else have anything? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
No.
Nay.
Okay, motion fails. Now, at this time, it failed and wasn't passed, Ron, so,
Now,
It's just-
you need to have a motion to deny it.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't just assume it's denied
Yeah.
because this motion didn't pass.
Okay, do we have a motion to deny Resolution 2024-04?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. Next up is appoint EDC liaison. This is the liaison for the Economic Development Committee. Jonathan, Supervisor Erler, I know you attended the Economic Development meeting last
Yes, I
week.
did.
And,
It was canceled.
oh, it was canceled?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get that memo, and I was in the parking lot for a nice half hour.
Oh, sorry to hear that. I didn't know about that either. Are you interested in being the liaison for the EDC?
Yes, I would be interested to take that position to fill the role.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we appoint Supervisor Erler as the EDC liaison.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Supervisor Erler.
Just to make it known, I abstained from the vote.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll open it back up for public comment.
Scratch it out.
Should be right in pencil.
Anybody want to make a public comment? Mark, do you want to finish? Can you finish in 3 minutes? Because if not, then I would suggest maybe we talk about putting you on the agenda, because it seems like you have a big idea here. You
I
told me
like that better.
you told me about that a couple
Yeah.
minutes.
I like that better.
Okay.
Just rushing through this in 3 minutes because you can't really make it coherent now that it's split. But the bottom line is, and I'll just read this for the people. In order for U.S. industries to better compete in a global economy, higher paid American labor is going to have to be able to produce more value than lower paid foreign labor. One way to achieve this is through advanced manufacturing technologies and processes. What I'm proposing is like what they did with the food and beverage industry, and advanced manufacturing science for workforce development, business incubation, and the acceleration of products to market. Okay, and then the special facilities would be what we put out into the I-2 zone. And I feel that that has a bigger draw and better marketability than the current proposal by the developer.
Okay, we'll talk about Mark putting you on a agenda. Let's see how the 11th looks and see where we're at. Thanks, Cindy. Anyone else, public comment? Yeah, Lee.
John, if I was to speak and then cede my time to Mark,
No seating times.
No, we
No
can't
seating
do that.
times.
No. Lee's a good man. Anybody else, public comment? Come on up, Judy. Lee, you're giving away yoo-hoos, you're giving away your meeting time. Very kind man. Go ahead, Judy.
Okay. I hope we can really get the EAC off the ground, because what Mark's talking about is really important. When you look at everything going on out there, food and beverage, you know, Pennsylvania has more preserved farmland than any other state in the country. And when you talk about LERTA, What John is saying is, our ordinance that we did just recently was tailored to I-2, I-3, over 100 acres. We made it so it would only fit in down there. And if you're talking about dilapidated properties, why couldn't we have little places around, around the township? I keep thinking about all the business people that live here. They're not getting any tax breaks. We're giving them to people who are coming in with these fantastical ideas. But I can't even think about, let's think about the old Johnsonsville Agway when it was there. And it went out of business and it sat there for so long. That to me would be a prime example of how you help a local businessman bring a deteriorated building or property back into shape. So I think these are kind of things we need to all be talking about and coming up with these kind of ideas. So maybe we have a special time when we have a presentation like Mark's talking about. Or you could do it at the EAC when you guys get off the... If you need any more information for EAC, I can talk to Ron.
Okay, thank you, Judy.
Hopefully the next meeting, so we can have a night to meet.
Yeah. Anyone else, public comment? Ron, come on up.
The open meeting law was a very important piece of legislation when it was passed. It was meant for the public to know what the deliberations are leading up to decisions being made. You recently had an executive session to choose a fifth supervisor. You evidently had that discussion in the back room because when you came out, you knew who you were going to pick. I'm not saying I have any problem with who you picked, but that needed to be done, that discussion, because it very clearly, I think the solicitor would tell you, is the discussion leading up to the vote qualifies under the open meeting law, the sunshine law. And you didn't do that. You discussed in the back room who you were going to choose. Now, would any of you say you didn't do that? Because if you didn't do that, just tell me none of you done that, or I didn't do that, or
I didn't do that.
No, you didn't. No, you were here. No problem. Thank you. Thank you. No, you absolutely didn't. Would any of you want to volunteer? Well, the point is, you're not volunteering, so it means you did make the discussion leading up to the decision in the back room. Now, I think your solicitor would tell you that's not personnel. Personnel is stuff like somebody on the road department, personnel. Deciding a supervisor is going to be is not personnel. So could I have your leave to ask the solicitor, would I be correct in saying that?
Ron?
The answer is yes and no.
Okay.
So there's a lawyer answer for you.
The open meeting law states here with respect to
I know it by heart.
executive session. You're a better person than me. I don't know these laws by heart. I have to keep looking at them.
Well, it's
again.
real simple. Is a supervisor's choice qualify under personnel?
But there's a special section here. It talks about, just give me a moment here.
Sure. By the way, I only have 43 seconds. We're on your net time now.
That's okay. We'll have that stayed.
I'll give you a pause.
You'll waive
Ron.
that, will you?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's kind of you.
Anytime, Ron.
Yeah, see, it talks here about executive sessions to discuss any matter involving employment, appointment, termination of employment, terms and conditions of employment, etc. It does go on to say that this provision of this paragraph shall not apply to any meeting involving the appointment or selection of any person to fill a vacancy of elected office. So,
And they did come out, and they chose who they wanted in the back room, and they came out and they made the motion and did
but
it.
this section talks about a meeting with respect to picking that person.
But
It wasn't a meeting to just pick that
At a
person.
predetermined time and place, wherever 3 supervisors are as a majority, that is declared a meeting. There was a meeting in the back room to choose a 5th supervisor. I mean, I know this regulation. I could quote this as good as anybody here, I can assure you. You don't go in the back room to choose the discussion leading up to the choice
start his
of
time
a
again, please?
supervisor. A supervisor is not an employee. These are elected people or appointed people. They're not employees. None of you are employed. I presume you would agree. Are you employed here? No. You're elected
Ron,
officials. You're
we
supervisors.
we talked about the interview process,
Oh, did you?
but
That's kind of.
No, well, I'm
I know you're
telling-
going to put a spin on here.
No.
The spin is not going to work.
But we didn't. We weren't back there saying, "Oh, well, we're all going to
But
vote
you
for
dis-
Erler." We're going to vote. We talked about it in public, and we talked about it going back in executive session. Oh, sorry, Ron. Time's up. But
Yeah, that's you're
but-
using your time, not my
but
time.
listen, none of us knew who was going to vote for who when we came out and voted. I mean, I was the first one, and I nominated Joe Torre,
You're great
and it
to do
failed.
that. You're great to run those plays, by the way. Nobody
That-
runs those
it's-
plays like you. You knew you didn't have 3 votes,
That's
so
an
you throw Joe
accusation,
Torre
Ron.
under the bus. That's what really what
No, I
happened here.
didn't.
You did so. You
I
knew
did
there wasn't
not.
a vote.
I- I was the one who put 'em
now
up.
you reaffirm
All
my
right,
belief as to what you've
Ron-
done in the back room.
Ron, that's enough. You've had enough time.
Oh, I've had enough time.
Yeah.
Okay. Could I
Thanks.
ask any one of the supervisors, would you say you didn't discuss the choice of a supervisor in the back room? Thank you. You answered my question.
Anyone else
Violation of the
public
highest order
comment?
of the open meeting law. It really is, okay?
Anyone else public comment?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I don't know if this is the correct time to do it, but the more that I'm thinking about it, about Lamont LaCure's thought of the LERTA program, I'd like a motion to amend our LERTA ordinance to include exemptions on a case-by-case basis.
I would say, Mr. Chair, that Supervisor Erler certainly has a right to make that motion. However, since it was not on the agenda, I don't know if I would entertain that as such because of the recent changes in the law with respect to things having to be on the agenda unless it's an emergency or de minimis and that kind of stuff.
We'll put it on for the 11th.
Okay. My apologies.
No apologies necessary.
Okay.
I received them.
No other public comment? Judy, you already came up. Yeah, Mark.
Marty Penner, 39 Lindsay Lane, Mount Bethel. In regards to the LERTA presentation by Lamont, I would very much urge you to have the solicitor look at this because this could be construed as contract zoning and/or it is borderline quid pro quo, which is both highly illegal in government. You guys can be setting yourself up for a hell of a legal battle in regards of you do this, I'll give you that. So I would very much take a deep look at that. It could even make an argument for antitrust. So tread lightly on that. Thank you.
Anyone else public comment? Okay, that being said, we're going to go back into executive session. I have it, my clock on the wall says 9 o'clock.
We have to state the reason for the executive session.
Legal issues. Anything else in executive session besides legal issues? Okay, we'll return. Check 1 2 1 2. All right, we're back. Meeting's back. We went into executive session where we discussed legal matters under the attorney-client privilege, and at this time there will be no action taken. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.